Now think about this. Every coin has three sides. You have what we call the heads, or you have what we call the tail. In both ways, what we have here is one side of the coin is poverty, and the other side of the coin is wealth. Now, the difference between wealth and poverty, in my opinion, comes down to one word: habits. Habits decide whether you come down the side of wealth or whether you go to the other side of poverty. Now, the real way to start your journey towards wealth is to be objective. Most people, unfortunately, they only see things in one way. We call that perspective. Their perspective is one-dimensional. And I believe that we're all meant to train ourselves in such a way that we have an open perspective about life. You couldn't really appreciate light without understanding darkness, the same way you wouldn't understand the joy of winning except you understood the pain of losing. It's called the law of opposites, polarity. Everything comes in twos. In the same way, the coin comes in two parts. It has three sides, but it comes in two parts. Now, the key is for you to be able to be humble enough to stand on the edge. Because when you stand on the edge, you can look down to one side and you can look down to the other side, and then you can make the best informed decision for you. Now, there's a reason why some people stay poor, and there's a reason why some people become wealthy. It has less to do with environment. It has more to do with imagination. It has more to do with habits. It has more to do with decisions. So wherever you are today, wherever you find yourself, I want to encourage you to be open to some of the ideas I'm about to share with you. Because I believe the ideas are the birthing seeds for creating true wealth. Now think about this. A lot of you understand the whole principle of a seed. A farmer takes a seed and puts a seed in the ground. He cares for the ground, and over time, at the end of the seasons, when the harvesting season comes, he will get a return for his labor, for his efforts. Now, in the same way, all of us will get a return if we sow good seed. So ideas is where everything begins, through your thinking. Now, the formula for poverty is very important, because until you understand the poverty formula, you will not appreciate the wealth formula. In addition to that, until you understand the wealth formula, you will not see the disadvantage of the poverty formula. So the poverty formula is simple. Most people say, well, I've been saving all my life. I've worked hard. I've done everything that I should do, but things don't work. Now, I come from very humble beginnings. And I remember growing up, my father, such a great man, remarkable person. But he said a lot of times that if you work hard, then you will succeed. As a matter of fact, I grew up with the mindset and the mentality that you had to sweat for your money, otherwise you haven't really earned it, and you haven't earned the right to have it. That was the mindset. Now, although I love my father very much and still love him very much, I think that bit of advice, perhaps respectfully, was lacking in an area. Now, this is what Napoleon Hill says. And Napoleon Hill studied 500 of the wealthiest men in the early 1900s. The likes of Thomas Edison, the likes of Andrew Carnegie, the Scots philanthropist. He studied the likes of Bridgestone. He studied the likes of Henry Ford. A lot of great men, a lot of presidents. And he came up with a book called Think and Grow Rich. Now, from his studies and interacting with these 500 men, he had pulled together what he considered to be one of the greatest pieces of literature for achievement. And what he said in the book in a section, and I paraphrase, he says, if you think the hard work alone leads to wealth or riches, he says, perish the thought. He says, success comes from not by doing a lot of work, but from having the definiteness of purpose, having a burning desire, a passion a knowledge of what you really want, an idea of what you want, fixed in your mind, and the willingness to work towards that idea. Now, I paraphrase that quote simply to make a point. And therefore, what I want to share with you is this. The difference between the poor and the wealthy comes down to how they live. Because habits create what we call lifestyle. And part of this lifestyle is conditioned. We're now conditioned. Some of it we do automatically without knowing. It's habitual. Now think about this. You wake up in the morning. When you brush your teeth, you don't think about, I have to go and brush my teeth. You just walk in and just start doing it. You've done a number of times. It's become habitual. In the same way, many of us are doing so many things every day that are habitual. The formula for poverty is simple. Poor people earn money. When they earn, the first thing they do is spend. And when they're done spending, they allow whatever is left for saving. The problem is, most poor people spend more, so they have expenses that exceed their income. So they spend more than they earn. Therefore, they always have nothing here to save. Or they have so little. Now, because they have so little here, now they have to save for the long term, actively. Unfortunately, they stay stuck. The wealthy, on the other hand, apply a different principle. They earn. Now, the money is the same amount of money, but the first thing they do is they invest. Once they're done investing, they then spend based on a budget. And whatever is left, they save, but they save passively with the intention of finding opportunities to reinvest. Now, the key thing here lies in what they do after they earn, because the income is the same. The question is, what is the first activity that they do? The poor spend, the wealthy invest. If you want to become wealthy, you must become what we call a compulsive investor. Now, the principle that the wealthy use was coined by the Babylonians. Ancient Babylonians were very wealthy people, and they came up with a phrase. They said, a part of what you earn is yours to keep. They said, pay yourself first. So take a portion of what you earn before you start spending, set it aside to invest, not to save, to invest. So their recommendation was 10% as a minimum from what you earn, you must invest. Then they said the 90% left, you then discipline yourself to live on less than you earn. And there is the word. The key to wealth is the discipline to live on less than you earn and invest the rest. But you must invest first and then live on less than you earn, so that you create what we call a surplus for more opportunities. Now, have you ever had the sad feeling where an opportunity has come your way? Someone has talked about an investment, someone has talked about an opportunity, a business transaction, a deal, and you feel rotten inside because you don't have the funds to participate in the investment. Part of that is a result of what we call poor money habits. So, if you want to change your financial life, it's important you start by understanding, what kind of habits do I have? You see, if your habit is such that you have more expenses that exceed your income, you're always going to remain poor because you're always going to be in a deficit. You will never have enough to invest. If you spend exactly the same amount that you earn, you're always going to be in a break-even position. So you're a position we call net. And unfortunately, it means you would have almost nothing to invest because you have no surplus left. The key is always to discipline yourself to live within your means, meaning spend less than you earn by having expenses that are less than your income so that you can invest a portion of what you earn. That is how wealth is created. The key then is, once you've allocated this amount, to do that consistently, to do that regularly, and to do it wisely.